Can our next guest put a stop to Sharice Davids and her continued victories in this 3rd District race here on the Kansas side of the Metro? Dr. Prasanth Reddy is here in studio on KCMO. Doc, good morning. How you feeling ahead of tomorrow?
I'm feeling great, Pete. I'm feeling great. Thanks again for having me. Love talking to you and your audience.
Well, right now, as you make your closing argument, I know you had, 5 events over the weekend. What are you hearing? And listen, what are you telling people in a district that has trended bluer and bluer over the last couple of election cycles?
Pete, what I'll tell you is it's basic. It's common sense. So the first thing that I've heard consistently is that we're fighting for our neighbors. We're fighting for our family. We're fighting for our friends. That's what we're fighting for. And those values that we're fighting for come from God, come from our communities, and come from our families. That's what everything starts from. Then we can talk about all these issues, all these existential threats, whether it's the economy, whether it's education, whether it's energy policy, whether it's crime. The list is long. We know what it is. But all of it stems from that. And that's what we got to rally around. That's what we got to fight for, because we got a lot more in common than we do, our differences. And that's what's exciting people.
Well, you're going to have to get some disaffected Democrats, of course, on your side. So how are you doing that, and how do you feel like that's going?
Look, I'm going to start with my opponent's record. For someone who says that she's been listening to the voters, she's authored 0. Folks, you heard that right. 0 bills that have been passed into law. 0, right? Now she also says she's for common sense. So let's find common ground. We just talked about people wanting to find common ground. Well, if someone's here illegally and assaults a police officer, and we can't throw them out of this country, what the heck are we going to find common ground on?
And do you feel like that message is resonating with enough people right now?
I do, Pete. I do. At the end of the day, we got one more day. This is about voter turnout, and this is about connecting. Now, we've fought some headwinds, right? Yeah. They've outspent us 9-1, and they complain about dark money, right?
That's rich.
Crazy.
That is rich.
Right? But we got a message, and we're going to win with that message.
So especially, you look at some of the growing communities, and we had just spoken about this off the air, some of the growing communities around the Kansas City area, the Asian American community, the Indian American community. Obviously, you're an Indian American yourself. So how do you reach out to them, and what can the Republican Party do to bring these people into their hopefully growing tent?
It's all about the American dream, right? So the American dream is based on merit, hard work and talent, and doing the best that you can to help people, getting a good service, getting a good product out in the marketplace that's going to help people. That's going to win in the American dream, right? That's what we believe in. So it's about culture. So I like Superman, right? When I was a little kid, I was a little bit of a nerd thing here, but
You were a nerd as a doctor now? Come on now, that's not possible. What are you talking about?
Well, it's just what it is, right? But I remember when I listened to Superman, when I watched Superman with Christopher Reeves, there was a saying, there was a motto, fighting for truth, justice, and the American way. Well, just a few years ago, DC took that away from Superman and said instead of fighting for the American way, he has to fight for a better tomorrow. Well, unapologetically, Pete, the only way to fight for a better tomorrow is to fight for the American way.
Prasanth Reddy is here on KCMO. He is running against Sharice Davids. So as you look at this race at large, what is the thing, too, about her record that you think has gotten overlooked over the last few years she's been in D.C.?
Look, it's like I said earlier, it's common sense, right? When you have a border bill that she says she's all for funding law enforcement, all for funding drone technology, all for building the wall, and then she doesn't vote for it. That's H.R. 2, by the way, folks. That was available for her to vote for. And then now they just throw on the word bipartisan, and they have another bill. That bill allows up to 5,000 people a day to still cross. Folks, do a little bit of math. I'm not a mathematician. I have a lot of degrees, but I can tell you that if you did some basic math, that's almost 2 million people a year. That's 8 million people.
No, that's a big old number. Now, here in Kansas, there's been this poll that's gotten all the attention that shows, and it's out of Fort Hays State. No one knows how accurate it is, but it shows Donald Trump only winning Kansas by 5. Of course, he's won it very comfortably by 15 to 20 the last 2 cycles. If that were accurate, that would be a huge Democratic turnout here in Johnson County. As you go around and you're going to different meetings, you're talking to folks on the ground, what is your sense of this county, where it's at, and what it wants out of its next leadership?
Look, I think what this common sense is what the folks want. That's the bottom line, right? What folks have been telling me is go back to finding the things that bind us and fight for common sense. Look, I'm telling you, on economics, we can't print our way to prosperity. That's going to cause inflation. It has caused inflation. That's not common sense. We got to do better, right? When we're talking about protecting our communities, when somebody commits a crime, we got to hold them accountable, right? In my neighborhood, just a week or so ago, there was a car stolen right from the driveway.
Wow. That's not good.
Not common sense, right? When people are committing crimes, we got to hold them accountable. That's common sense. And so that is what we're going to win on. That is what binds us, and that is what's going to bring us together.
How about getting Republicans turned out? That's obviously a huge strategy. It's not just broadening the tent, but it's also driving out the base of the party. How do you feel like your campaign and the party at large, county and statewide, are doing on that front?
Look, I could tell you what we need to do is control the things that we can control. Pollsters, look at the weather outside, right?
Yeah.
I mean, pollsters are like sometimes like weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they could be worse than weathermen.
And that's the problem, right? So the problem is they make their guesses, and they have never been right over the last 10 years. You guys look. Everybody can look at their record and see what's happening. Control what we can control. That means get out, vote. Make sure you talk to 5 folks in your neighborhood. Make sure you talk to 5 folks where you work. Get those folks out to vote. We will win if you do that.
I was coming down Ridgeview on Saturday morning off a run, and I saw someone had destroyed a bunch of Prasanth Reddy signs on the median. I wasn't too pleased with that. So I don't know if that's kind of the shenanigans that are going on, or if it's just, some teenager being a punk. But that's happening all over, it seems like, in some cases.
So, Pete, again, remember, we said culture is important, right? So you can't just have a shtick that you're nice, right? Culture matters. So we've had probably close to 800, 900 signs stolen and defaced over the course of this election cycle.
Is that right? Wow.
800 to 900. And we haven't heard anything about folks saying, that's not right. Let's focus on what's right. That's what we're going to focus on.
Prasanth Reddy is here on KCMO. So your closing argument here to the folks in the 3rd District of Kansas, which, of course, now includes Miami. Oh, it was Miami, but you now have, Franklin County, go down to the southwest from there as well. So how do you feel as you talk to a very urban part of this state along with a very rural part of this state?
So, again, I'm going to come back to the things that bind us. It doesn't matter if you're brown, white, or purple. It doesn't matter if you're rural or if you're urban. The values that bind us, the things that are important in our lives, that's what's most important. We need to come together on how we live a good life, how we fight for the things that are right, how we fight for our neighbors. If we do that, we're going to win because we're standing for the right things. And folks, I'm just telling you, get out there and vote. If you do that, if we go out there and do the things that we're supposed to do, control what you can control, we're going to win this election because of you.
If you pull it off, will you come back on Wednesday?
Heck yeah.
Okay. All right. We got him on the record. I didn't want to ask him off the air. Prasanth Reddy on KCMO running against Sharice Davids in the 3rd District. Thanks for being here, and good luck tomorrow, Doc.
Thank you, Pete.